So a lot of pundits who look back at 2016 are now correctly pointing out that one of the reasons why Hillary Clinton lost was because she didn't have a message. She was simply banking on the fact that not being Donald Trump would carry her to victory. And now people are seeing how that obviously wasn't enough. Now, someone who's not replicating that strategy is Cynthia Nixon. She's running as an unapologetic progressive, and she's promoting really bold policy ideas such as state-run Medicare for all, abolishing ICE, and she truly has made her mark on progressive politics in America. She basically is the antithesis of Hillary Clinton, who is running as someone who is not just banking on being anti-Trump, but nonetheless, that didn't stop someone on MSNBC from asking her this question.
Ms. Nixon, you and Governor Cuomo argued yesterday during your debate about who was the biggest Donald Trump critic. You also said that Governor Cuomo should return some of the donations that Donald Trump made to his campaign. My question to you is, how effective do you think it is to run an anti-Trump campaign, given that Democrats did that in 2016 and lost?
That's exactly why I'm running, because I feel that Democrats this year, if we want to win and if we want our voters to turn out, Democrats have to understand what we stand for. We can't just be a kinder, gentler, more diverse version of the Democratic Party, of the Republican Party. We need to elect more Democrats this year, but we also need to elect better Democrats, and we need people to speak about the economic and the racial and the gender inequality that's swallowing our democracy whole and actually do something about it, not just pay lip service to it.
So you could see that Cynthia Nixon was actually shocked that she, of all people, was asked that question, because I think you're preaching to the choir. Of course, Cynthia Nixon knows that she can't just run and be anti-Trump and expect to win, of course. Now, the problem is that even though it's true that you have to be more than just anti-Trump, the whole premise of the question itself is flawed, because in pointing out how Andrew Cuomo took money from Donald Trump, Cynthia Nixon is trying to call Andrew Cuomo's bluff and demonstrate that he's not as anti-Trump as he seems and wants you to think he is. And she's trying to position herself as a progressive alternative to Donald Trump, which is why she brings up progressive policy ideas. So if there's anyone in the country that's not banking on winning simply because they're anti-Trump, it's Cynthia Nixon. So even if I'm glad and relieved, quite frankly, that pundit is on the right track in realizing that, yes, Democrats need to be more than anti-Trump, well, you're horribly misled about how that looks in practice. Because if there's anyone who's not just anti-Trump, it's Cynthia Nixon. Have you looked at her platform? Have you seen what she stands for? Have you heard what she's been talking about? She's making headlines for saying things that are pretty controversial. She's breaking norms. She called ICE a terrorist organization. She's attacking Andrew Cuomo when DC orthodoxy would probably recommend that you not attack your political opponent, but she's doing it because she believes Andrew Cuomo is corrupt and not good enough. She's not just anti-Trump. Of course she is anti-Trump, but she's the real deal. She's an actual alternative to Donald Trump, because if you truly want to be anti-Trump, then you can't just say, I'm not Donald Trump, and think that will suffice. You actually have to have policies that counter Donald Trump's right-wing agenda. So this was such a weird question to ask Cynthia Nixon. I mean, certainly you can ask this to Andrew Cuomo. I think that would be appropriate. This should have been asked, to Hillary Clinton. She should have been asked this very question. Other Democrats you can ask them this question. But to ask Cynthia Nixon was just weird, and I'm not sure what to make of it. But I wanted to point it out because I think that in some way the cynic in me wants to think that this pundit is trying to tie Cynthia Nixon to Hillary Clinton's unpopularity in order to make voters in New York think that she's more like Hillary Clinton, she's more like the establishment. And you could certainly misinform voters and make it seem as if that's the case, because she is an actress. She's rich, right? So if you don't know about Cynthia Nixon's policies, you could get caught up in that rhetoric. I dismissed Cynthia Nixon, admittedly, at first, because I thought, I don't know who this person is. I know she's an actress, but I mean, stay in your lane, don't get into politics. But after listening to her, she won me over very quickly. She showed that she cares about policies, that she's the real deal. So it's easy to get manipulated if you don't know about Cynthia Nixon, if you haven't heard her speak. So the cynic in me thinks this pundit is trying to get voters to think she's more like Hillary Clinton, when in actuality, it's Andrew Cuomo who's more like Hillary Clinton because he is the establishment. He has the backing of the establishment. I mean, the DNC chair, Tom Perez, violated his neutrality promise to endorse Andrew Cuomo. It doesn't get more establishment than that. So if you're looking for an anti-establishment progressive in this race, we need to make it clear that individual is Cynthia Nixon. So hopefully this pundit was just misinformed and wasn't trying to muddy the waters, but watching cable news and mainstream media enough, I think I know better. I think we all know better about their intentions.
Support this podcast by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Humanist Report.